Hi friends, welcome back to the Gear Shed, and today we are sharing something super awesome with you. Sportiva TX Canyon. The TX Canyon is a shoe that we have been super excited about since we spotted a first look maybe a year and a half ago. How does it feel? That's the big thing that we want to look at in this video. We know what the shoe is, we've seen it before, you can check the link down below just to get a little more discussion of the shoe. But we really want to understand what this shoe feels like. The one thing about the shoe is that it's sized up 2 sizes. So this is a 6.5 on the box.
I have a neoprene sock on as well. So I'm normally a 7, and in these shoes, the 6.5 is still going to be at least half a size to a full size larger.
So this is what the shoe is actually designed for too, is the neoprene sock. So having a neoprene sock, Kailee's got a 3 mil on, a 5 mil would fill this out a little bit better if it's a little big. And that's a really cool feature of this, is that they made room for the socks, but you do have, the sizing seems a little funky, so you're gonna have to just make sure you're aware of it when you buy it. Kailee, you were talking about the cuff up here and the entry.
There's a cutout on the heel so I can really articulate my heel when I'm taking steps, but the front and the side still support my ankle, so I'm not likely to roll them. Now, this is a brand new shoe, so it's a little tough up here. So if you're wearing neoprene socks, I think that will cushion it a little bit. But when it is brand new, before you break them in, it's gonna feel a little bit stiff the first few times you wear it.
Now, another thing about this opening in the back, it does help you enter and exit the shoe a little bit more easily. But one of the differences between this and say some of the other canyoneering shoes, that the cuff does go all the way up. There is a little bit more possibility of getting material in your shoe. However, that being said, when we're out in Europe, we're out running a bunch of rivers, I was emptying my shoes. I got the TX3s on, and I was emptying them out 2 to 3 times a day. The girls wearing the shoes, they emptied them once at the end of the day, didn't have a whole ton of rocks on them. So if you're in really, really sandy rivers, you might have an issue with them if you're walking through a lot of mud. But again, get a good sock that's gonna fill that out and make sure that this whole area is filled up. That way, you're not getting a lot of material in there.
I think another thing that's really nice about this shoe is that they add a lot to help it stay on your foot. So, for example, we've got this kind of triple layer Velcro system. So I still have this really nice lacing system. I can get it nice and tight. And then once I want to tighten that to my foot a little bit, I'm gonna put the first layer of Velcro, and then the second or the sticky side, and then I have a third one to go over. So not only is that gonna help it stay a little closer to my foot, but it's also gonna make it more secure.
So in terms of use, Lulu used this on the Via Ferrata. She actually really loved the shoe because of the grip and the way it articulated into the rock. She also liked the ankle support while she was climbing on the Via Ferrata. So that's something to really think about, is like a good ankle support. If you're doing Via Ferrata, or you're doing a lot of climbing with it, and there's a lot of potential to roll your ankle, you're gonna have that support. Now, the one thing is, it is a black shoe. So because it's a black shoe, it did get really hot. Lulu's shoes were pretty stinky afterwards. She did sweat a lot in them, and she said she felt really clammy in the shoe. But for everything from zip lining to Via Ferrata, moving her feet around on the rock, the shoe worked really well for that purpose. So the thing to note is that this is a canyoning shoe, so you're gonna wanna be around water.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily a climbing shoe. I took my TX3s on the Via Ferrata, had a great time with the approach shoes up there. I had a lot of good stickiness. So you really gotta think about what purpose you're using it for. Since we used it in an approach shoe or a climbing shoe type environment, it wasn't exactly a climbing shoe, and it didn't perform as well. So this rubber is gonna work really well in the water, and when your feet get wet, you're not gonna get that same clamminess, and you're not gonna get the hot feet and just the wrinkly toe action that just comes along with all of that. So that's pretty nasty. Now, as far as the climbing zone on this and the actual shape of the shoe, this thing is really awesome because in a granite environment like we're in right now, there are a lot of intersecting boulders that come together. So here's the shape of the shoe. We'll move over to Kailee walking through some boulders with really wedgy spots in them. She can really get the shoe in there and kind of span that crack instead of having to roll her ankle through it. when you pull the shoe out, it might get wedged a little bit. So if it does and you accidentally kick a rock, you have that high rand to help protect the tip of your toe from damage. And toe bang really, really sucks. The next thing about these shoes is they're pretty stiff, so probably not gonna kayak in these shoes. It's just the ankle is wrong, the footbed is wrong. It's a very stiff shoe. It's more designed for canyoneering and not as much for kayaking. So when you're trying to get into your cockpit, get this up against the bulkhead, you're gonna feel that resistance on the front of your shoe, and you're gonna feel some difficulty getting that into that spot. But when you go rafting, we want hard shoes and we want ankle support. The ankle support is gonna help a lot when you're running waterfalls, and when you get your foot underneath the thwart, you really want a lot of protection, so that high rand helps protect you against the little lip that exists on the underside of the thwart, and the top of the shoe has a lot of padding and protection because it's designed to absorb impacts from rocks. But that's gonna keep from things like zippers that might be on, say, airboats, on the bottom of them from abrading the top of your foot. So it's a really cool design that we have here that's gonna protect our feet and keep us going when we're in the river and in the boat. Now I wanna talk about delamination, and I'm showing you the delamination here from another shoe, my Palm Gradient boot. I actually left this boot in my storage shed while I was in Europe, and it delaminated there. Now, going back to the La Sportivas, when we brought back all of the girls' shoes, we were in really, really hot places for a long time. Some of these shoes were in direct sun, they were packed in cars, they were packed in planes, flying around, and there's been no delamination issues with them. Now, my Palm Gradient boots were only about a month old when I put them in storage. A pair of La Sportiva TX3s that right next to my Palm Gradient boot that delaminated. The TX3s are still in good shape, even though they're pretty beat up. They don't have any delamination issues. So the one thing I really love about La Sportiva as a brand is that they don't delaminate very easily, and if you have problems with it, call La Sportiva. The customer service is pretty fantastic, and any issues that you have with the shoe, they're gonna take care of you. So, you know, you're gonna pay a little bit of a premium in terms of price compared to something like the Palm Gradient or maybe an Adidas shoe, but you're getting the La Sportiva brand and their customer service or warranty behind it, which is pretty stellar, pretty amazing. And I think just generally from the products that they've produced so far, I would much rather spend another $20, $30 on a pair of these that I know isn't going to delaminate, or if I have an issue, I can call customer service and they're going to take care of it. If you have questions on this, drop those down below. I hope I have answered a bunch of questions about this shoe, and we will see you downstream.